So today we're going to have a quick look at the Lauf TR29 or Lauf 29er. It's a suspension fork, but probably not as you know it. It's relying on some kind of old school technology, some leaf springs. Of all the bits of kit I've ever tested at MBUK and One Mountain Bike, it's probably garnered the most attention in car parks and out on the trail because, as you can tell, it doesn't look normal. The whole point of it really is it offers 60 mil of travel through these 12 leaf springs. It's a completely carbon construction, apart from the glass fibre leaf springs, so it's actually really quite lightweight. It's about 1 kilo, so you're looking at 500, 600, 700 grams less than a traditional cross-country race fork, and perhaps 400 or 500 grams more than sort of one of the higher-end carbon rigid forks. They kind of say it's to go midway between a rigid fork and a suspension fork, both in terms of weight and obviously travel. There's actually 2 versions of the fork. This one is for regular riders and it's designed for riders of 65 kilos and above. And then this one over here is the one which is for riders under 70 kilos. You might notice that I am most definitely over 65 kilos and definitely not under 70. So I've been riding this one. There's no real tuning you can do to the leaf springs other than the weight differences between the forks. Lauf say that this is because with only 60 mil of travel, you don't really need that much tunability in there. It's not actually got very much travel to tune, and that's why it's not really offered. Obviously the weight thing is there because lighter riders are going to need a lighter weight spring than a heavier rider. It's also worth noting that it does have little bump stops there, so when you do your big old drop-offs, it does bounce off without too much problem. So this is Lauf's own 15 mil through axle. It does have markings for the Maxle, which originally came with the fork, but they've developed this, which they believe is actually a little bit stiffer than the Maxle. So it's 50 mil. There's 160 mil post mount bolts, goes straight on, no problem. Axle to crown is 485 mil, and the rake is 48 mil. So it's pretty standard in terms of like 100 mil cross-country fork, isn't much longer, and the rake's pretty similar for 29er wheels. It is worth pointing out these are 29-inch wheel only forks. As far as I'm aware, Lauf are only going to be making the 29-inch version. If you look at cross-country racing as a whole, the majority of riders are on 29ers, and with a fork which is so limited in travel, in my opinion, it makes sense only really for it to be for the bigger wheels, which go over the bumps a little bit better. I've ridden this round the World Cup course up in Fort William, the cross-country World Cup course, and at full pelt on some of the more technical bits, I was definitely finding the limit of it. I've also ridden it around sort of the relatively easy local trails around Bristol quite a lot. And to be fair, like around a fast but fun blue route, they're actually pretty good. They take out a lot of the buzz, and you never get that big G out situation where you're really pushing the lateral stiffness of the fork. So they're kind of cool around there. But if I was really racing on a proper sort of a Scottish technical course, I think I'd probably want the extra control, the extra travel and the extra stiffness you get from a more traditional cross-country race fork. I've raced it both in marathons and cross-country races, which is exactly what Lauf are targeting the fork at. They explicitly say it's not a trail fork. And my impressions of that very much is that I wouldn't want it on a trail bike. The 60 mil of travel is incredibly supple. There's no stiction at all, obviously, in the leaf springs, and that's what makes sort of, when you're riding a regular fork, it gets you the tired hands when you're going over really high speed, little impacts like gravel or rocks in a fire road. And this completely takes that buzz out of it. And for that, it's brilliant. And that's why sort of often, if you look at marathon racing on the continent, I think the Lauf there would be brilliant for that. In the UK, we've got some slightly more technical trails, even in cross-country races, and it does start to sort of struggle there. When you get bigger hits, it is undamped, as is the rebound, so it gets a little bit bouncy. But the biggest kind of problem or issue we found on more technical trails is that the lateral stiffness, the twisting of the wheel inside the fork, just isn't quite enough to get a real sort of positive feel through corners. So it feels a little bit wayward and a little bit scary at times, if I'm brutally honest, when you're really pushing it. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting product, and I kind of like where they've gone. In the future, I'd definitely like to see more from Lauf, but I'd like to see it stiffened up a lot more in the front. I think it's got a bolt through here with just a simple thread in there. What they might want to do is, if there's any way of getting sort of 2 pinch bolts in the axle there, I think that would go some way to resolving those stiffness issues. If you're after a set of Lauf forks yourself, you'll have to buy them directly from Iceland. They're $1,055, including delivery, so it works out around between £600 and £700. I quite like the fork, but it's very much a niche product, and I'm not convinced there's that many sort of niches of riding in the UK where it really works well. If you live in Germany or in Iceland and you're doing the marathon races out there, why not? It's brilliant for that. But for UK technical trails and technical race courses, it's just got that tiny bit too much flex in there, I think.
There's more of the same coming soon, so don't forget to click subscribe. And let us know what you think of the series so far in the comments section below.